increasing empathy in your analytics engineering workflows. I am so happy to welcome you all today, and our speaker, Felippe Caso, who is joining us, and he is going to walk us through how we can build workflows for analytics that include focusing on empathy. Because we all know that pulling the number isn't the hard part, getting the code right isn't the hard part. The hard part is actually connecting with people, making them understand, and walking through why this matters to them and how to use this well. And so really, really grateful to have you all here and to have Felippe walking us through this awesome presentation today.
Thanks so much, Jason. Look at that. So let's see if we have this. Okay, we do. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here with me today, and hello also to everyone that's watching online right now or in the future. First of all, I wanted to share with you a bit of the things that motivated me to this talk subject. And the first one is this word in Portuguese. We say Insensatez. So this is a title of a great song by Tom Jobim. I live the album there, so it is my recommendation for you today. But like the word has this meaning of folly, madness, unwisdom, but as I like to say it, it also means doing something even though deep down you know you shouldn't be doing it, okay? And in a second we'll talk about how that relates to our data world. That word led me to the second thing that motivated me to this subject, that is why. I would think to myself, why would people choose to create another derived table? Why would people choose to add a new table in dbt without documentation, without tests? And why would people just add a dimension to this Looker Explorer real quick to solve a real, I don't know, irrelevant problem sometimes? So yeah, this got me thinking, and those are a bit of the things I wanted to bring to you today to find your particular scenario. So I say that I want you to leave here with more questions than answers, but I hope that some thought processes can lead you to find your own answers in your own context, okay? Before we dive into it, I'll present myself real quickly. So my name is Felippe, like Jason presented. I currently act as an analytics manager at Loft. For those of you who don't know, we are a Brazilian company working to bring the home buying experience to the e-commerce age, as we say it. So we work in the real estate market. And I want you to get to know me a little bit better and some other things I bring from myself to this subject. The first one is that I'm a musician, and you have seen it from the album recommendation I left with you today. The second one is I am graduating in electrical engineering, and that's, even though that's not what I'm doing as a career right now, as you can see it, I still have that like why questions from engineers and asking why for a lot of things. Third thing is that I am more of a dog person myself, and that's what I leave you with, this awesome, cute assistant right there. So every time you see that in the slides, feel free to join our Slack channel and leave some questions there, leave some answers there from your own experience. And last but not least, I have a huge problem with decisions, and ice cream shops for me are like the worst place to be. And that's enough of my story, but you've learned in just a second why I'm talking about decisions, okay? I want to tell you another story. I want to tell you Billy's story, okay? So Billy is the data person next door. They are like data analysts or analytics engineer, probably related to a lot of you here. And Billy has the challenge to use data to help their company grow. Sounds easy, right? And in the beginning of their day, there's a new request for help in the dedicated Slack channel. So Billy is asked to add broker email field to the sales funnel explorer in Looker. You can see that the person asking is totally blocked by that, by the way. And by the way, there was a talk about service desks in analytics teams in this year's version of CoLS, so I invite you to check that out as well. But let's think about that for a minute. We know that totally blocked can be misleading a lot of times, and we know that the request doesn't really say anything about the real business problem the person is facing. So, like myself in any ice cream shop, Billy now has a decision to make. They can spend 30 minutes to make the field available, do the quick fix, or they can step back and try to understand what's really going on. Is there a CRM problem? Is there something in Salesforce? Should it be available in Looker at all? I mean, it's broker email, so it's probably a personal field. Should it be available there? I don't know. Was that a question already asked maybe the last week and was already answered and already discussed, and both of them are not aware of that at all? And if Billy does that, given that it's even something that can be solved with data, they can spend like a lot of minutes, a lot of hours, understand where it fits in the DAG, create a new DBT model, test it, document it, put it on Looker, create a new dashboard, get it on. Phew. Folks, and then you see, was that how Billy's Tuesday was supposed to start? So thing is, Billy's just a representation, but that decision is not clear. It's not like if you want to eat something you like or something you don't like. That is a hard decision to make. And data teams can deliver a lot less value can if this process is not well defined and well streamlined for people like Billy. Otherwise, you just have a team of firefighters all around and getting to, I don't know, put fires whenever and wherever they happen instead of working consistently. And I invite you to share as well. So what are your ideas? I think some of you can relate to that like story, and that's happening to your daily lives as well. So share in which moments do you find yourself in these micro decisions in your daily data life. I really do believe this is not just Billy's story, it's like the story of many, 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 many teams and people in a lot of companies. So what's going on here? The first way I want to approach this is coming back to what I think I said. A lot of times there are decisions. And like I said, Billy's faced with a decision that's not like a big life-changing decision, but the very little and very frequent decisions in every day. It's not unusual for us to go off and change our roadmaps, change what we have planned to keep up with the business speed, wherever that's taking us to get to know what's happening, fix some problem, fix something unexpected that came up. Thing is, if we don't have guardrails for those decisions to be made, we are not prepared to deal with them when they come up. Our brains were not prepared to, have not adapted to that, because biology. A wild animal's brain is prepared to think about decisions like, what I'm going to eat today, where I'm going to sleep. So that's how I need to survive. That, as a phenomenon, you may or may not have heard of. It's called instant gratification. Okay, so that leads us to tend to make decisions that benefit us in the short term, but not in the long term. And we benefit things that do not hurt or benefit us immediately. So we tend to overestimate immediate threats that are very unlikely to occur, such as a plane falling in a moment of turbulence, okay? And we tend to underestimate a very distant but very probable threat, which is lung cancer for smokers, okay? And let's go back to our data world. This is maybe too philosophical. What does that mean for our data world? Well, first of all, this is a natural tendency we can be aware of and proactively act to balance it in our own decision-making. So if we know our brains are wired to go in a direction, we can act and get some energy to make it on the other direction and maybe balance it a little bit. Also, when you have incentives for your team, you can take care of how those decisions are being made. So for instance, let's take Billy's scenario. If their team's OKR for the month or the quarter was reduce average time to resolution in data requests, what do you think were going to be the exact decision Billy was going to make? Is that the best one for that scenario, or it may not be? Again, I'm not giving the correct answer because there is no silver bullet, there is no one correct answer, but all the incentives can lead you to different directions here, okay? And again, I ask you to share your experience. How would you make the decision if you were in Billy's shoes? How would you decide to spend 30 minutes and do the quick fix, or spend a lot of time and probably deliver a lot more business value, a lot more decided business value. Okay? A way that I like to look at it is by seeing that a decision is not good or bad just based on its outcome. And that may seem like a bit counterintuitive, but we make decisions based on the information we have available to us at that moment, okay? So every model of reality will always be just a model. Let's think about decision-making chess players, for instance. You can lose a chess game having made all the right decisions all along, because you made the best decisions given what you were presented with at that moment. So we cannot just evaluate decision-making based on their outcome. We have to create mechanisms. We have to create processes for that in our data teams. And talking about chess, we have there's a great article that compares like professional chess players' decision-making and novice chess players' decision-making. And what is the main difference there? We think that as novice chess players, we would like to analyze all the scenarios and all the possible movements at a given point in the game, and then choose the best one. But professional chess players don't really work like that. They identify the main scenario, like the main line they want to work with, and try to find if there are problems with that line. And we found out that Billy could be a firefighter, so why not relate to firefighters again? That is actually exactly how firefighters assess and treat a situation. So if they're faced with a problem, with a challenge, they don't have the time to think about every single option in an emergency and spend 30 minutes in a planning session to act upon that. They have to identify one main line and act on those, and then see if that brings another unexpected problems. And this is where I get to what leadership can bring to the table. So we sometimes call it as experience, white hair, gifted people. I don't know, I don't really like gifted people, but in reality, our leaders, and for all of you that are lead teams yourselves out there, we can really bring this experience in decision-making to the table and really help the teams make better decisions based on what are these critical lines, what are these main paths our team can take to really make that work. Oops. And this is also talking about leadership when we get to the empathy gap. So, and making the relation again, there was a talk in this year's edition of Coalesce about empathy. I'm not going to go through everything that was spoken there, but that was really great, so I also invite you to check that out. But the idea is that there can be a huge empathy gap between what leaders are aiming for and asking from their teams and what their teams are really thinking and executing in like the trenches and front lines. So probably a lot of you leaders out there feel that sometimes, like myself, am I asking the right things from my team, and why is my team not like responding to what I'm asking? On the other side, there are analysts and analytics engineers, like my leader does not really know what I'm going through, so they do not really know what people are asking me to do, what business stakeholders do need. So there can be a huge gap in the middle of this relationship that we need to address about. So we can help leaders feel this, like, this sentiment and talk about their experience and remember that even the obvious things need to be said a lot of times. Talking about empathy, while all of this is happening between leaders and analysts, business stakeholders can be still on that moment that I just need you to select star from that awesome table I think exists with all the answers to the universe. So when we talk about empathy, it's important also to remember that we have to develop those in the data relationship. It's also very important and essential to develop those with business stakeholders as well. Okay? And that's a lot of what we learned when we were scaling our team at Loft from 10, 12 people to 40 people. So that's a bit of what I want to share with you today. A lot of trial and error of what we did. The first thing was to measure business impacts to help in creating this empathy and helping making better decisions. I know that's challenging for a lot of data teams because like business impacts and measurements and metrics for data teams are not really clear. This leads us back to the original question Billy was challenged to answer. What was the business impact of having that field available in that Looker Explorer? If that question, that answer isn't clear, we cannot expect to have like this decision better made. Second of all, we have to attribute important responsibilities. How did we do it? At first, in horizontal task forces that gave responsibility to part of our team how to tackle these problems. So they would be faced to create, like, what are the metrics we want to optimize for in our analytics team? How do we know when we face a decision, face a request, what is going to be the best path to take? What happened, since there were horizontal teams, we weren't getting their priorities out there because they were putting a lot of fires elsewhere. So what we did more recently is create a dedicated data ops team to handle that. So the main result we've got so far is get a lot of productivity in our data development process through best practices, through implementations, through automations, so we can really get those decisions better made for everyone. We are still figuring out what are the problems this is going to cause, because this is going to be a loop always. Here we go. And at last, we are trying to develop a shared vision. So if everyone knows where we're going, it makes it a lot easier to get there, right? If Billy has to make that decision, but they don't know where the team is going, where the company is going, what is the impact we're trying to generate, we cannot have everyone on board to make the best decision at every moment. And if you ask everyone in my company, in your company, probably there are conflicting views of what the vision is, where are we trying to go. So in develop a shared vision of what is the journey of analytics development, what is the journey of analytics consumption, we can really create that better scenario for everyone. And this is still in progress. I hope to share some results with you all soon. Some things we are looking for next up. So for data people, we want to have a lot of development decisions pre-made for them. So that helps transform some things that can be a bureaucracy, such as descriptions, tests, and things that will help less fires appear in our data lives. So by having some of these decisions pre-made for the teams, we can really help them, help support them. Okay. Second is to align incentives and impact estimates when we're planning roadmap and backlog. If Billy has a real clarity of what their priority is for that day or that week or that month, and a new request comes up that doesn't have a better impact than what they're already doing, there's no reason to do it, right? On the other side, for business teams, we want to help them ask for help. So if you remember the original Slack request, it was like a very open-ended question. So how can I help? What is your problem? And if the person says, okay, I just need this field, you're not really helping them bring out the real business problem. So if we change the question, what is your business problem? What is the impact you're trying to make? If we change that small thing in the process, we can help everyone get better results out of their relationship. Therefore, I close this call with a call to leaders for starters. Recognize your own bias when dealing with your team, when developing your team and giving incentives to them, and the incentives you're following yourself from the vision you're trying to tackle, from where is the company going, and then use that to your advantage. So the same way as our wild animals' brains. And second, exercise understanding when helping stakeholders and developing teams. A lot of times, stakeholders can ask for a new field in an Explorer just because they think they are helping, and we tend to oh my God, why is this person asking me that? That is not going to solve anything at all. So let's have these conversations. For analysts and engineers out there, the first recommendation is the same one as leaders. Recognize your own bias and the incentives you're following again. In having these conversations between leaders and teams, we can make sure we are following all the right paths and take a good advantage to this ticket to your leaders' heads. I always like to say that if you know how your leader is thinking and what are their problems, what are them trying to solve, you can really help to position yourself better to help solve them. And at last, business people, if you're even out there, remember, it's not that easy to just put a field there or select star from something. So try to evaluate the business impact just up front when you ask for help from a data team. And I also invite you to share your own experiences. So like I said, the idea was to bring much more questions than answers, and I invite you all to continue this conversation with questions and from your experience as well. This is thank you from myself and from all the Billies out there. Thank you.